Hi there, guys. I am back after a long hiatus. I know you guys have probably been wondering where I've been, but I have actually been quite busy and also taking time to reflect upon the world and my life. I actually have been working on a video for the past 3 months of a memorial, and I just needed time away. There's so many things going on in the world that it's hard to even keep up. As you guys already know, you've seen all of the discord and chaos that's happening worldwide, and how there's a mad scramble for the governments to position themselves in places of power over us. And I've already witnessed how all of this digital age is going to be very challenging for us as we enter this new age of Aquarius. And Saturn is a very strict ruler, so that energy is going to be coming upon us. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is the Saturnian energy and how it's going to affect us. But I did want to put a little mention about this video. If you guys are interested in watching this video in regards to supernatural science, ancient technologies resurrected, a history of science and the occult. This is on the Shattered History channel on YouTube. This is a very good video that actually talks about some of the occult information that's involved with how we've gotten to where we are. This is something that I've been reiterating on my own channel, is to hopefully get through to people that there is a greater narrative at work here. And as we continue to move forward into the future, this shadow aspect of our world is becoming more known as we also become aware that there is a duality of different forces in the world. And once we gain the eyes to see this duality, then we can start to comprehend where our position rests within our society that we are a part of. And we can also choose to make plans of the future, or in whatever current situation we might be in, to align ourselves with others to try to bring about a benefit and to also bring about truth. And that's what's happening with our government systems. Right now, we have people that are forming groups and alliances with each other to bring back the root of our power for the people, not for the government system. The government system is very corrupt. It has gone rogue, and it is getting bigger, and we cannot go to court against the system. But what we can do is, since we are all creators, we have to learn how to create our own governing system again. That's the only thing that we can do, because we cannot tear down the old unless we start building the new. And that's really how this world works. I've been studying this phenomenon that's coming online and what the solutions are. And a prime example is how Trump is not disclosing the truth regarding how our government system was actually changed into a corporate government system. But he is now creating new avenues to actually govern this country over here. But you can see how just where the pawns are being placed on the chessboard, because that's what the world equates to, is a chessboard of shadow and light that is eternal, playing this game of control and manipulation of each other. If we're really going to buy Canada and we're going to buy Greenland or whatever other countries are involved, then there's also a larger story to that. It's not just about owning those territories. There's something else at play. There's other things involved. There's things that we don't know about that are actually happening in the world. And they're positioning themselves to where they are going to have two world superpowers, basically. You're going to have the shadow government and you're going to have the white government. These are the two pillars, Joachim and Boaz. This is what's described in Freemasonic lodges as, the two ruling forces of the world. You have the light and you have the dark. The dark always uses a manipulation, a deception, works in the shadows. They destroy things. There's a destructive force. And then you have, on the other hand, you have the force of light. And that is going to be the truth, justice. It's going to be honor and integrity and virtues and all these things that are encompassed within the light. So Studying the yin and yang is going to be very important for us to really know what's going on in the future. So here we have just a little diagram of the yin and yang. This is just a brief synopsis on this. This is alchemy. Alchemy is all things because we live in an elemental universe. And whenever you're playing with the elements, no matter what it is, it's considered alchemy. So alchemy is one unit. That's why we have a circle here. This is one unit. Everything derives from one unit. The one unit divides itself into two, just like an embryo does, in the ovum that gets fertilized by the sperm, which the ovum would equate to the yin and the sperm would equate to the yang. And once they combine, then a spark gives off and then the division begins. This is exactly the same concept. So you have the light and the dark. The light is the light of the sun. It's also the air principle, but then it's also the fire principle and air. So then you have the earth and water principle, which are dark. You can't see through them. They have darkness. They are shadow. They hide things from us. You can't see through the ground. This is why the hidden aspect is so important when you're talking about the yin. But it's also a feminine aspect. So this actually births life, and the life comes from the light because the earth is the divine feminine aspect, and the sun is the male aspect that impregnates the earth with its light, and then the earth gives birth to all forms. And that's how this works. So we can just briefly go through this. Yang is positive. It's positive polarity. This is the electric principle. The sun is the light. It also includes heaven, which is also includes the stars. It's an active principle. The fire, which is the light, and then it's also above us. It causes heat and generation. And it's also your waking state. So just this symbol alone equates to all of these things. And that's how symbolism works in this existence. Once you get some root foundation on what symbolism truly is and what things mean, then it all boils down to, okay, where does it apply in our society? Just like when you're looking at red and blue. When you're looking at red and blue, you're looking at fire and ice or fire and water, and they're polar opposites. Same thing that we're talking about here. You have fire and you have water. So this would be red and this would be blue. That can also mean that it's a male principle or a female principle. Do you see where I'm going with that? I mean, when sometimes you see the yin and yang in a red and blue format, and it just basically means the same thing. Because when you're looking at symbolism, these are what they're going to actually be speaking, just in their colors and their shapes and their forms. So it's just very, very basic knowledge that we're talking about. So let's go over the yin real quick. It's the negative principle. It's basically the negative polarity, which means it's magnetic. So we have electric and we have magnetic. And this is what the earth and the fire principle are. Is like the earth is magnetic. And that means that it does not generate electricity. The electricity comes from above. And the earth is the grounding. It's ground for a reason. So then we have the moon. It's dark, it's earth, it's passive, it's water, it's below us, it's beneath us. It's cold and it's growth. So, and it also equates to sleep or rest, because this is the active principle, this is the rest or, stagnating principle. It's like it's stagnant, it rests. There's so many different aspects that you could apply to this, even more than what these are, but this is just the basic foundation. Okay, now I talk about this a lot on my channel, but I think it's imperative for people to really comprehend where we are in time. The zodiac that's found in Western astrotheology or Western astrology is a wheel of time. And in the magical grimoires and the magical practice of what is spoken, they always state that you should only perform your actions within the country of where you've been born. So since I've been born in the United States of America, I am going with the Western astrology chart. I don't necessarily touch upon the Vedic astrology because there's a whole foundation there of learning that is required to even be able to decipher it. So, in order for me to actually explain some of these things, which I tend to comprehend the Western astrology more, it just makes basic sense just to stay within the realm of where you've been raised. So that way you can comprehend everything a lot better. And so, just so you know, all of the foundations of our reality are based in magical practice. And it's literally everything because it's your consciousness. Your consciousness creates your reality. So, your thoughts create things. This is what's known as magic. And the oligarchs around the world have been using this gnosis or knowledge to obtain their hierarchy of power over us. And this has been a fallacy that we've been following and perpetuating for them because we do not go and really dig into the foundations of our reality, into the law, the land, air, water, which are the foundation of how we comply within society's bounds. And since we don't know what our actual rights are under the sun and under what's known as God, then we just blindly follow what we're told. And that's a dictatorship. So, in order to become our own authority or author of our story, because that's what authority is, we have to learn how to self govern again. And that's what's happening in the world. And all of this is coming about because we are going through these seasonal changes that are known in the zodiac. Once you obtain the eyes to see the signs, symbols, and the methods of how time moves, then you can gain the awareness of how everything in life has a seasonal cycle. You can look at your own life as an example. You were born in a golden spring. You were then raised into teenhood, and then you became an adult, and you also grew into more self-awareness. That would be like going into the summer of your life. Then, if you get into your 30s and 40s, you're starting to go into the fall of your life. But then once you get past 55 and you start to walk the path towards the descent of your life, you're getting into the winter phase. And this is how it all works. You can even see it in the daily practice of eating, how your plate of food begins with a golden spring. You have much abundance on your plate. And then as you consume the food, it goes through a seasonal cycle of summer, fall, and winter, where it becomes barren. And the drinking is the same thing. If you drink a glass of water, it's absolutely the same. So once you gain this little awareness, you begin to see more in the world of how things are actually done, whether it's society and growth or descent and decline in society or through government systems. Literally every aspect throughout space and time works in seasonal cycles. Even the plants in your yard will go through seasonal cycles, the animals, their lives, everything. So that's why I want to continue to teach the gnosis of alchemy, because all of this is based in alchemical formulas. And it's not just about tinctures and liquids and things of that nature. It's working with the four elements of alchemy. And those four elements equate to the seasons. So what we have here, we want to talk about Saturn and how important this is going to be to know all of the different attributes of Saturn to see it how it's going to affect us in the future. And right here, we are in the Wheel of Time. And as you can see, we have the yin and yang in the middle. That's because it's pretty much fixed in this foundation of learning as we traverse the constellational energy that's considered an astrological age, not just, an age of the seasons that we see in a year, because that's what this does right here as well. It'll tell you what these seasons are in 1 year of our life. But then there's this astrological cycle that continues in a greater span of time. Each age equates to 2,150 years, thereabouts. That's the approximation. And we are crossing over from the age of Pisces, right here in Pisces. We are now crossing this bridge over into Aquarius. where it is ruled by Saturn. We are no longer going to be ruled by Jupiter. This energy is now old and it has to fade. So that's why we're seeing this re-emergence of power and control, this new regime that's coming online. Saturn's energy is the greatest challenger in anyone's natal chart and anyone's aspect. It is going to be the challenge of your life. But as in all things, our seasonal cycles, each astrological age also experiences cycles just like the seasons. So we are entering a new age or epoch or era, and you can divide this age into 4 quadrants. There are going to be signs of a golden spring as we remove ourselves from this great winter of consciousness that's been in a 20-year cycle right now. There is a book called The Fourth Turning, and it describes how this person noticed seasonal changes within a span of 20 years. Every 20 years equates to a seasonal cycle. And if you're interested in following the Wheel of Time, because I think everyone should be, because you can actually determine what to do in certain days and hours, weeks, or months of your life. And you will know when the challenges are coming based on the star alignments in the celestial heavens. And that's what the oligarchs have been using to place themselves on high. Not only that, but they've been using all of the high magic, which is not only divination to figure out when to make moves or action or sell or buy or do all these things, live in their life by these cycles. They also invoke entities to give them knowledge, and this is known as necromancy. So that's part of the dark magic or yin magic that is also known in the world. Now, Saturn's aspects, we need to talk about this. We're going into Golden Spring. It's called Saturnalia. Saturnalia is a time of great abundance, and there's going to be a lot of farming. We've already seen where people are starting to separate from our society and branch off and start creating the root foundations for agriculture. And it's going to be important to do that, that we have this emergence of people realizing the importance of being able to sustain themselves, because the corporate conglomerate is actually out here and it's about to control everybody everywhere that they can. They are not on every single continent, because I've been to places in third world countries where they do not have this infrastructure. But what they will do is probably use cartels that are actually part of their association to govern the people in those lands. But they do not have this technology in certain third world countries. I've seen it myself. They don't have the internet. They don't have the electricity. They just don't have the foundations of all of this control system that is coming online. So that's just an option for people to look into if you don't want to be a part of the control system. The control system is going to be based in Saturnian energy. That's why China is being heavily suppressed and ruled and oppressed right now, because that is Saturnian. They equate to bringing in all of that, what they call communism, which is a term that should not be used in that manner. That's not an appropriate manner to be using that word, because communism is derived from community. And really what we need to have is more community. But the adversary of the world, or the dark deceptive force, uses words that are actually benign in a manner that then instills fear and contempt within us. And this is a manipulation. It's also black magic. That's what any kind of black magic mind control is a manipulation of words and terms to suppress the actual true knowledge or the root foundations of the words, which is called etymology. Getting back to the Saturnian aspects, we're going to go over that briefly. But what you can notice here is that as we get closer to the center of the Age of Aquarius, which this is about 1,000 years right here. After about 1,000 years is when we will descend into more darkness. It will start declining. There will be a die-off, and we will enter into the fall and the winter phase for Aquarius. And then everything's going to be in chaos again as we enter into Capricorn. because we've already seen it with leaving the Age of Pisces, and you guys can just start noticing how big the changes are because of the energies. We're going into a sign of air, which is the two waveforms right here. This is frequencies, basically. That's what we're learning right now is frequency. And this would be the representation of frequency if you didn't know how to use spell casting or what's known as spelling. The ancients used to use symbolism because it speaks directly to the subconscious mind. Everything else that we're doing is casting spells, and the spells are created through different numerical patterns, basically. These letters equate to sacred geometry patterns that bring down the energy of the stars. And that'll have to be another video, but I've been learning a lot about how language is actually just star power. And so is writing or scribing or drawing things in a 2D format. It's actually utilizing the energy of the stars, which is electric. And so we're getting into Saturn aspects, and let's have a look at that. Just to reiterate, this is the 4 seasonal cycles. We're going to see the benefit of Saturn going into Saturnalia, where we create all of this abundance and awareness, and we gain the knowledge that we might need to know. There's some people that are just going to be happy playing video games or doing drugs or whatever it is that they're into, because we are going to be freed from the work force that we've been doing for so long. And there's another word for that, but I don't want to use it in this video because they'll be editing and monitoring all that stuff. As we move forward into this age, we're going to be monitored and controlled more. Know this because I've already seen it. I've went to pay for my car tags, which is another story about how when you register something, you're actually giving it up. And when you register your cars and all of your property with the state, they become the proprietor of your property, and you've given it up, and you're just the person who rents it from them. And that's when they say, you will own nothing and you will be happy, because the state has been owning all of our things and we never knew. But I went and paid my car tags and found out that the car tag office is now very much connected to the auto insurance office. And if you stop paying your insurance, which I had a friend who moved and they still have their tag in the county where I am, but they moved and they changed the insurance policy to another state. Well, that tag office, because the car is still registered with this state and this county, they sent him a bill stating that now he's going to have to pay this fine because his vehicle is no longer valid with insurance in this county. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just more evidence of the control system that's coming into play in our lives. Is encroaching right now. And we must be aware of what's truly happening, because yes, they are centralizing all government systems that are corporate in nature. So for those who are wanting to be on the forefront of joining forces with people that are actually putting the foundations of government for the people, by the people, there are avenues for that. I have actually made contacts with many different groups, and I do not encourage anyone to go and change their national status. Do not, I repeat, do not change your status to a state national, or a national. I do warn people against that. That is not the proper method. All we need to do is learn how to self-govern and to bring the balance back into this whole construct. That's why this force is growing bigger and trying to do what they're doing with the technology that is going to be used against us to track us and to monitor us and to control us. So it's just good to be aware. Anyway, let's get on to other Saturn aspects. Here's a brief little synopsis. Saturn actually rules Capricorn and Aquarius. This is a misnomer. In the grimoires of old, there are only 7 planets that matter. The Romans threw Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto into our cosmology, and they do not have a place there. This is something that confuses people. Apparently, they were a deceptive force, and they did a lot of deceptive practices. And this is what we're trying to undo. If you go into any ancient grimoire or you go into any alchemical text, none of those planets exist. So I'm just going to, put that out there that there's a lot of misinformation regarding even, astrology and any of the different foundation information that you want to find on the internet. It's all in a jumble. They are trying to confuse people and put misleading information out continuously. So just be careful. Do your diligence in your research. Very imperative to know what the truth is. And you can find a lot of truth when you really start grounding yourself and going over a lot of information, especially old grimoire books about alchemy and magical practice and things of this nature. So the planet Saturn is associated with discipline. And this is why China is going to rule the world. It's basically that idea of how China is now being ruled. That's what they're talking about when China is going to rule the world. So the foundation and where Saturn is found in a birth chart shows how and where a person will set limits and look for security. Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius, and Saturn energy is conservative and self-controlled, as well as authoritarian, sometimes punishing, evoking fear or depression. Saturn takes just under 30 years to orbit the zodiac and spends about 2.5 years in each sign. So basically, what it is Saturn is very slow. And whenever you hear the word Saturn, just think of time and space, because that's what Saturn creates in this reality. Now, the keywords and associations: approval, contraction, faithfulness, monotony, bones, crystallization, fear, old age, bruises, debts, form, the past, caution, deficiency, rigidity, poverty, chronic ailments, delay, frustration, practicality, coldness, depression, habits, resourcefulness, confinement, discipline, hard work, responsibility, conservation, effort, justice, self-control, conservatism, endurance, limits, time, consolidation, failure, losses, weightiness. I would also add black, stinky, dirty, dark, shadow, and many other aspects that are also equate to yin. Saturn's influences. Now, Saturn takes away, he banishes, he binds time, cycles, limitations, obstacles, boundaries, no, strict discipline, karma, disillusion, decomposition, death. The color is black. Remember, black, stinky, dirty, dark, shadow aspects. Father, authority, the boss, cold, serious, patience, structure, organization, cycles, the circle, physical structure, limitations, obstacles, and boundaries. This is why we're going into this technological fence that's going to be the binding force of keeping us within specific boundaries. And, we're not going to be able to see the fences because Saturn doesn't like fences, but there's going to be invisible fences during this age. And it's going to be similar to Hunger Games, where you won't be able to leave your zone and you won't be able to move around. It's just like what they've put out on the internet a few years back, where they put the United States in FEMA zones, because those are going to be the zones that you cannot leave in the future. They're putting up the electrical fence now. They're building the infrastructure for it with these huge poles that are being erected. These things are twice the size of a normal telephone pole. They're metal. They're huge. I believe that they're eventually going to be outfitted with all of that technology to be able to physically bind you to an area through sound frequencies that you won't be able to pass, or even lasers. I mean, they might zap you. Who knows? But this is going to get really ugly. It's going to be more like the Matrix in the future. But for now, we're going to experience the abundance of it all. And it's going to be through this technological advancement that we're now experiencing, because they want to get us all happy and integrated with it. And it's going to be amazing. Like, we're going to be so happy because we're going to be free from the daily drolls of work. But it's going to be very detrimental in the end. So Saturn again rules time and space, limit of physical binding, disillusion, decomposition, and death. Saturn is the Grim Reaper. He's the Dark Lord. He's Lord Vader, Lord of the Rings. And, this is supposed to be like a scythe, a sickle, where he harvests souls for different purposes. Now, you can either learn from your mistakes and learn from all of your great awakening, or you can be ignorant and in darkness, because that's what ignorance is darkness of the mind. You can remain there, and he will harvest your soul and hold you back in your soul lessons. And I believe ultimately that's what is going to be done when people get caught up in the Borg and their souls are held back in time. And that's just part of the journey of souls. So there's cycles that are involved with Saturn. Saturn makes these cycles happen because of the time and space. It is the seventh planet, and seven equals completion. Actually, nine is actually endings and completion as well. So the number nine is usually associated with death. And God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, and 7 days equals 1 week. This is a seal of Saturn, if people don't know. It's just one of the many symbols of Saturn. And it is also a Freemasonic type of image with the air, fire, and water. If you were to draw lines here, it would be two opposing triangles or pyramids, and it would be kind of like alchemy of the four elements, but you would have to extend these lines a little bit backwards, and it would be the Star of David. But a straight line across like this equates to arsenic in alchemy. So perhaps combining these all together equates to death, which is Saturn's realm. Okay, just to go over some of the symbolism that is around us. I've done this in multiple videos now in regards to the symbolism of how much Saturnian energy is surrounding us. As you know already, Saturn equates to time and space. Anything to do with time, anything to do with death, anything to do with cycles of time, it's all a reference to Saturn's realm. Saturn is also better known as Satan, and Satan is the challenger. Satan is ruler of Earth plane because that's what this experience is. It's Saturnian in nature. Saturn is creating the time and space for our journey through life and death. And once we leave Saturn's influence and go up through the rainbow bridge, through the different heavenly spheres that are deemed as planets, and somehow that light energy extracts us and pulls us back up to it. And through each sphere, according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it has its own energy and its own experiences that we leave within each sphere of color that we are emanating from. And I do encourage people to read Tibetan Book of the Dead to gain insight and awareness into that aspect. Apparently, there are heavenly light realms that we can also traverse while we're here once we learn how to astral project. There are many methods on how to astral project, and I believe that's part of our process of learning as we journey through this experience. We're supposed to learn and gain access of the awareness of all of the other planes and how to take our consciousness from this dense reality and be able to consciously move through those other dimensions that are all around us, but that we are not quite yet aware of. There are different, obviously, natural herbal drugs that can take you on those journeys, kind of artificially, but you can also access higher realms through Kundalini yoga, pranayama, breath work, and other spiritual practices. This is what a lot of other cultures around the world actually work on a daily basis. But because of the nature of the Western society and how it is made for us to focus on material gains and to keep up with the Joneses, it doesn't allow us time for spiritual practices. But I do believe that as we enter the Age of Aquarius, because it is an air sign, and air is also all things to do with spirit, that we will gain access to time to work on spiritual teachings if we so choose, because we have free will in this construct. So as we gain the ability to not have to work so hard anymore, and we have this abundance of wealth at our disposal to pay for our bills or our existence, then we will be able to focus on more spiritual matters. But there are those who will not be focused on spiritual matters because they're still locked into this construct. and playing games in this construct. And those are the younger souls that are not yet on their soul journey of discovery and, finding their journey of soul. Let's just go through some of the symbology that's around out here in the world, in the social and economical places of the world that are surrounding us with all the symbolism of Saturn. So TikTok is a reference to Saturn because it's a reference to time itself. Anything that's a reference to a clock or a black cube is a reference to Saturn. Saturn is also overlaid with the platonic solids of the Earth energy. So Earth is a black cube and Saturn is known as a black cube or even the black sun because it is the opposite of the sun that is the one that we see in the sky that brings the light and pulls in the heavenly light realm energy into this dark construct. If we did not have that light, it would be a very dark place and it'd be very cold here. So, and that's kind of what the darkness is here for, is to teach us these hard lessons. It's a duality construct that we are within, and we also have to fight with that duality within ourselves. But we have to learn how to shine like a diamond or follow the path of the golden sun that's within us. That's kind of the same symbology. And so there's also books about the black sun, and I've shown these in a video. People are out here. Obviously, some of these people are occultists and they are writing about these kinds of things. I would say that a lot of the writers that write the scripts for these different movies are actually occultists. And once you have taken that dive into the occult realm, you can truly see it and you start to question not the directors and the producers because they're not the ones that come up with the script, but the ones who actually write the script are the ones who come up with the content. And that's where you need to start questioning, who are they? What is it that they actually do? Are they in some of these secret cults? Because that's, where a lot of this information comes from, because the average people don't have this kind of knowledge. It's not just street knowledge. All right, this person, is continuing with their book series on the Order of the Black Sun Chronicles, I guess. So the Black Sun is rising. They're just basically letting you know, even if this is just a novel or a short story, it's basically telling you that, listen, there is this thing out here and it's the black sun that's rising right now, which is Saturn. Anytime you see black sun, it's a reference to Saturn. And Saturn is the Roman name of that god. The Israelites actually worship El, or El Elyon, as it would be in its full name. And El is Saturn, which is also Satan. But, people who just follow one faith or religion and don't look left or right or up and down and all around under rocks, they're not going to find this information. This is just more books about the black sun and dark lords. This is the symbol for Saturn. It's the black sun. It is the magnetism. That's why it has these jiggly lines. There's actually electricity that gets pulled down into Saturn's black hole, which is what down beneath us is the black hole that's been referenced to for so long. They are opposites, polar opposites attract, and it becomes a battery. Again, time is a reference. Any kind of time or a clock face is a reference to Saturn. Also, the cube, anything square, rectangle, or cube is a reference to Saturn. But also look at how this is making waveforms and grid patterns. This is also part of what the barcode is. So, of course, we know about the RFID chips that are being placed in products and services and things. This eventually will be inside your body and it'll be a requirement. I don't know how far out that future is because I can't divine into the future for that. But I do sense that it'll still be a long time before we are required to have this in our skin. If it comes anytime soon, it won't work and too many people will escape from their trap. But they've done some crazy stuff during the 2020 lockdown, and it does not surprise me if they're trying to do this by 2030. But I think their efforts are going to fail because we're coming out of the dark winter phase of the 80-year cycle. We're going to see a golden spring as we go into the next 20 years. After 2030, I believe, is the pivotal moment where we're going to see the golden light of the sun in our world, where we gain all this abundance and awareness and stuff. So here's the Wikipedia version of Saturn. Saturn was a god in ancient Roman religion and a character in Roman mythology. He was described as a god of time, generation, dissolution, abundance, wealth, agriculture, periodic renewal, and liberation. Saturn's mythological reign was depicted as a golden age of abundance and peace. So we will have peace for 1,000 years. It's coming. There will be no more wars because that is not what Saturn is about. But these are the better aspects of Saturn. Saturn's darker aspects, because there's two sides to every planetary body, just like there's two sides to each of us. Saturn's darker aspects are going to be controlling and going to be binding, limitations, all of those other things that I described. And this is some symbolism of the brotherhood of light and darkness. And I would encourage people to look further into this if you are interested in these types of occult aspects, because it's always going to be something that you see throughout your life. You're going to always see good and evil. You're going to see light and dark. You're going to see the four seasonal cycles and all these repetitive stories. The narrative always changes the names of the characters, and the backdrop of the story is going to change for each astrological age and the energy that is brought about through each cycle. But as we exit an astrological age, that energy therefore has to change because we're going into a different timeline that is ruled by a different planetary aspect. And this is why I wanted to share with you all of the aspects of Saturn, because as you gain awareness of what the planetary energy is, you can then find it out all around you in society and how humans are actually acting out the parts of those character roles that we came to play through the planetary aspects and attributes. So this is just a little notification. Fear has two meanings: is forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is always yours.